while we'll get situated here.
Just look on my
Hey, Kyle. Kyle, move up. Right side.
hitting the side here. Yeah, this is up together. This is why we're going in.
All right, everybody. I just want to welcome everybody to the White House. Really appreciate everyone being here, their willingness to serve as we revamp the National Coal Council. Very exciting day for everyone and for us. And I'm Blake Deely. I'm the Deputy Executive Director. John is also at the NEDC, the National Energy Dominance Council, led by Secretary Burgum and Secretary Wright. Just a quick note before we get started. I want everyone to be aware this is a live stream. This is a federal advisory committee. So this will be live streamed to the public. And just have that knowledge, knowing if there's any sensitive company information that you might not want to share just yet with the general public. That's just want you to have those whereabouts. So again, I just really appreciate this. We're very excited about this. As we know, beautiful clean coal is a priority of ours here at the White House, and certainly the presidents and the secretaries. So just really happy to revamp this coal council and to see all you all today, and look forward to a good discussion as we kick this thing off. So with that, I'll move to Secretary Chris Wright to lead the show here.
So I want to open with a simple message. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's from President Trump. That's from the entire administration, and that's from the American people. It's crazy that this coal council was disappeared in the last administration. Just crazy. A combination of ignorance and arrogance that's destructive, not just wrong, but destructive. I am so excited to see the faces, to see the people, see the industry, the criticality that enables our country around this table today, reconvened every day. The cold day in the spring was an emotional experience to me. To have President Trump's bold leadership, not just to go against fashion because fashion was wrong, but to trumpet, proudly celebrate it. That maybe the high point of this administration for me was that cold day in the East Room of the White House. Just incredible. So as the energy nerd, of course, I got to give some data and facts. First of all, just a reset where we are today. 1973, the Yom Kippur War, world got 84% of our energy from hydrocarbons. 2024, last full year data, 84% from hydrocarbons. So much for, a so-called energy transition. So hydrocarbons didn't change their market share, but of course things did change within that. I don't know if everyone knows, but not only is coal consumption today 2.5 times larger than it was in 1973, but the market share grew as well. 24% of global energy in 1973, 26% today of global energy. Absolute growth, market share growth. And the simple reason is no coal, no modern world. No coal, no lifestyle we have today. It's just that simple. If we look at it historically, the United Kingdom, the pioneers of coal. In fact, coal was 50% of energy it was England then, before the United Kingdom, before the union with Scotland in 1707. In the late 1600s, the time of the Glorious Revolution, England got 50% of its energy from coal. The world did not get 50% of its energy from coal until the year 1900. Wood was the biggest energy source throughout all of human history until coal passed it around 1900. What did that mean for the United Kingdom? This little island that was the edge of the Roman Empire. Hadrian's Wall up there where the barbarians are beyond hair. Little island nation England became a global power and a global empire. Number one reason, by far and away, coal. They got freedom, they got liberty, they got rule of law, they got technology, they got better treatment of women, a polite society, some of these great virtues, but these were products of a coal-powered society. That's how they got there. Then the United Kingdom turned the other way, right? We don't like coal. We're going to get rid of coal. We're going to be climate leaders. So United Kingdom drove headlong to get rid of coal. They did actually close their last coal power plant. But think of the human toll and cost to do that. In April of last year, they had to nationalize the last remaining steel mill because it was closing. You cannot have industry or make steel without a vibrant local coal industry. They've just exported their industry outside of the United Kingdom, around the world. Their total energy consumption shrunk almost 30%. United Kingdom 30 years ago, per capita income not much lower than the United States. Today, they're less than $60,000 a person. We're more than $90,000 a person. Just dramatic divergence, just wrong-headed. And of course, they thought it was because they're going to run on renewables. 75% of their energy comes from oil and gas. 75%, even higher than the percent in the United States is 72% oil and gas. But they got rid of coal and they paid a dear, dear price. Germany, of course, pursued the same policy, deindustrialized, lost all its industries to Asia. They're desperately trying to hold on to the last few things. Russia invades Ukraine, energy prices spike. What is one of the first things Germany did? They tore down a wind farm to mine the coal underneath it. So in times of crisis and in times of problems, people realize that and their heads turn back on. We do not want the United States to deindustrialize. In fact, we want to reindustrialize the United States. That is the agenda of President Trump. We're going to reindustrialize our country, booming blue-collar, working-class jobs. We're going to lead in AI. We're going to lead in modern industry. And we are going to be the global manufacturing powerhouse we were throughout history. And we're going to do that again. We cannot do that without a hole in our economy. This president is committed to that. This whole administration is committed to that fact. And we work 7 days a week to that. I'll end with just one last data point from my department. Doug's going to give a lot more, as is David, on things we've done. But at the Department of Energy, 17 gigawatts of coal generation are open today that would not have been open. Part of that was our 202Cs forcing the opening of coal plants. But once you do that a fefew times, utilities now call us up. You don't want us to close that coal plant, do you? No, we don't. And in fact, we get as many inbound calls. Can you 202C this plant? Because the state has forcing them or making them do it. The utilities know it's nonsense. They don't want to do it. Now they call us and say, we're going to try to do it without it, but will you give us a 202C if we need it? Absolutely. So in any case, God bless you. You make America strong. You make our world possible. And you're our critical partners for the success of this administration in making America a leader in AI, a leader in industry, the military power of the world, and again, that beacon on the hill for our freedom-loving people around the world. God bless you all. Doug, take it over.
Well, what a way to kick off a fantastic day. And like Chris, I want to lead with gratitude. And part of that gratitude is so fortunate to have Chris leave the private sector, join the administration, bring his enormous expertise, passion to this job. And then the other thing, you know, Chris is a guy that loves a good party. And so he decided to celebrate his birthday today with all of you. So let's do 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday for Chris. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday. I want to, like Chris, lead with gratitude, and I want to say to all of you, because as governor of North Dakota, a coal state, I had a chance to see firsthand the federal onslaught that was occurring during the 4 years of the Biden administration, after you survived the 8 years of the Obama administration. But no industry that does so much and means so much to every American in terms of, because you can't separate energy from our economy, you can't separate energy from national security, and you were the backbone and foundation of both of those elements. But the regulatory red tape onslaught that went against this industry was like no other. And so if you're standing here today and your company is providing reliable, affordable, American, secure, baseload, dispatchable power, if you're doing that, you're a hero to me. Your team members are heroes to me. The people that are working in the mines, the people that are running the plants that have kept this thing going. There's been no wind at your back. There's been a gale force wind in your face, trying to basically do what Chris described, what happened in Germany and in England and around the world. And along with that, in addition to the personal cost of those policies, there's an economic cost. Today, we find ourselves in a nation where we have states that have fought back and where you've persisted and where we have baseload that have electricity prices 1/3 the price of other parts of our country. And then we also find ourselves in a position with national security that national security is going to depend on who wins the AI arms race. And yes, we lead in chip manufacturing. We lead in software. We lead in the training models. The technology excellence of this country is the envy of the world. But how are we losing the arms race to China? We're losing it on power generation. China opened up 93 gigawatts of coal. This is a group that would understand, for those that aren't part of this industry, 1 gigawatt is the Denver Metro, 1 gigawatt is all of Utah. They opened up a plant like that, a gigawatt coal plant every 4 days. They've got similar plans going into 2026 to just keep charging ahead. If I see one more story about how China's leading the transition because they've got all these EV cars, well, over 60% of the power in China is coming from coal. And so there ought to be a bumper sticker on every Chinese EV. That's 2 out of 3 bumper cars out of bumper sticker that says powered by coal. That's the reality. And so we as a nation need to not follow down the path that others have gone. And we've got some states that have done that. That's why we're seeing a bifurcation of prices by red states versus blue states, primarily reflect the policies of the desire to transition. And I think all of you know that the Department of Interior plays a huge role in this industry because of the federal land that we have. And this goes back to the same history that Chris talked about. Theodore Roosevelt in the early 1900s had such a huge influence on designating public lands, which he viewed and described for the benefit and the use of the American people. What model was he looking at? He was looking at a century of the United Kingdom and Britain being the global superpower, powered by coal, their industry, their transportation. And so then people might say, well, how in the world did we end up with all of this coal in the western part of the United States on federal land? Well, it's because TR had a hand in picking what land was going to remain in public hands, because he knew that was the balance sheet of America. He knew that was the source of the power and the energy. So one of the things that pleased, from our standpoint, is that we're reversing all of the predatory attacks by the federal government against this industry. We've held 4 coal leases so far this year. The Biden administration held none, 0. And the ones that we're doing, we're cutting through the permitting and the red tape through President Trump, the great work that Chris talked about that he set up for us on Coal Day on April 8th of last year, and then following it up with a second wave on the September 29th on Coal Day 2. But with those emergency orders, we have completed EAs, which environmental assessments normally would take over a year. We've done those in less than 14 days. EISs we've done in less than 28 days. And people say, well, you must have been cutting corners. No, we just actually focused a team on the project. They stayed on it and got it done at a quality level that's as good as any they've seen. For one of the things which we have to also keep educating the public, which is, we've killed other industries. We've killed manufacturing and shipbuilding. The president has said he wants to get back into shipbuilding. You can't do shipbuilding without steel, and we can't do steel without metallurgical coal. And some of you are in that business as well. And so from a national security standpoint, whether it's winning the AI arms race, whether it's getting us back into building a nation that builds great things, like a Navy, that we do those things here. We need you. We applaud you. We're grateful for you. And our job here at the NEDC, Chris and I and the team, the NEDC operating within the White House, we've got all of our work. And of course, we've had a great partnership from Lee Zeldin and EPA. Also, David's here today to talk about that. But we've got a whole of government approach going to support having reliable, affordable, secure energy for this country. Last thing I'll say is we know that one of the areas that we've got a risk from a national security is critical minerals. We know that there's some of the highest quantities of critical minerals that we need exist in the coal that we have in this country. If we kill the coal industry, we kill any chance that we have of being able to catch up on critical minerals. We need this industry to thrive, the coal industry to thrive, not just for power, but for critical minerals. And we're dedicated to do that. I know you heard from David here who kicked it off. Jared Egan has got to be in the room somewhere. We're right, but right. He's hiding behind. He's not a press. He's not in the camera. But Jared, everybody turn around and see Jared. Jared's the executive director of the National Energy Dominance Council here in the White House. If you're not connected and working with them, you need to. This is the arm that Chris and I and our teams and EPA and others are using to try to help drive policy, cut red tape, and keep things moving for you. So again, thank you all for being here. And again, thank you to your teams. Thank you to the people that are doing the hard work. Thanks for keeping the lights on the coldest day of the years and the hottest days of the summer. You're making a difference for this country on affordability and on national security. We're grateful for all of you.
Thank you, Secretary Wright and Secretary Burgum. We have a few reporters here to ask a few questions. We'll kick it off with Jen DeLuey from Bloomberg.
Thanks, everyone, and for the opportunity to see this today. Wanted to ask, obviously, the secretaries and any executives or members of the council that wanted to chime in, what would be the impact on coal production, on coal producers, and indeed on the president's energy dominance and industrial manufacturing goals if state AGs prevail in the lawsuit against Vanguard and BlackRock, and some of the country's biggest institutional investors are forced to divest their coal holdings? I know that's top of mind for some folks in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I can start with the list of losers, and I can be very specific. Everyone. There has been a movement to drive capital out of the hydrocarbon business. And as I said, that's what makes the world go round. And so it would be a tragedy, just the height of ignorance and arrogance. It would say America's ready to hang up its hat and ride on these politically correct, energy nonsensical policies. Of course, it would be appealed and fought. I don't think we will end out in a place there. But yes, are there going to continue to be lawsuits and claims of people that just don't know the facts of energy and human existence? Yeah, those will go on forever, but that's not going to rule the day.
And I would add to that under Chris's description of everybody, that means everybody who pays an electrical bill, everybody who heats their house, anybody who has anything to do with energy, but that's the clothes on your back, the food on your table, how you heat your home, and it's everything. And the one thing, part of the President Trump correctly calls it the Green New Scam, but it's a scam because there was this idea that we're going to transition. And there was no transition. You can't get rid of affordable, reliable U.S. supplied baseload and replace it with something that is weather dependent. That's actually a decrease at a time when we need an increase. We're in a time of energy addition, not energy transition. And the energy transition was a complete lie because we were transitioning to less reliable and less total power. And with that, that's what's come the higher prices. And so everybody's paying the price. Every industry, every consumer is paying the price for that folly.
One last economic data point I forgot to say in my opening remarks about the United Kingdom, right? The only country we've seen that was heavily embraced coal and has recently just ended coal. Not long ago, before they went wrong on energy policy, their per capita income was below the United States, but not massively below the United States. Today, per capita income in the United States is more than 50% higher than it is in the United Kingdom because of their energy suicide policies. And in fact, if the United Kingdom was an American state, it would rank 51st last in per capita income. That's what happens when you get rid of coal.
Hey, Brad Plumer with the New York Times. Thanks so much for doing this. I wanted to ask about the coal plant retirement. So I think EIA, not sure of the exact numbers, but something like 20 to 30 gigawatts is scheduled to retire between now and 2028. How much of that are you hoping to prevent from closing? And I know you've been using the 202C orders a lot. Is the plan to continue doing that for the next 3 years, or is there a sort of, because those are short-term, plan for sort of a longer-term plan to make those orders unnecessary?
Yeah, of course, in the end, of course, it's to make these orders unnecessary. President Trump, rightfully, on the day he took office, declared a national energy emergency. The numbers are actually higher than you said, although you're missing 1 year. But when we arrived in office, the plan was roughly the retirement of 100 gigawatts of firm capacity. It was about 20 gigawatts last year and 100 gigawatts over the coming 5 years, in a time where with AI and resourcing of manufacturing in our country, we need to add 50, maybe 100 gigawatts of net reliable dispatchable power. And we inherited plants to close 100 more. So if you want to build a mountain 50 or 100 tall, you certainly don't want to dig a hole 100 deep and start from there. So yes, the goal is to stop the political closure of coal plants. There have been, and there will be exceptions. 100-year-old coal plant that only operates as a peaker, its economics don't work, it's past its useful life. We have seen we've let at least one of those close because it made sense. But the vast majority of them are driven by politics because governors want to say, we closed all our coal. They don't say that, and we're impoverishing all our people part out loud, but those two things go together. So yes, we want to end the nonsense and the war on coal. I think you will not see those coal plants closed during this administration. And in fact, I don't think you will during the subsequent administration as well. Because by then, the United States will be leading in AI. People understand electricity is a strategic national asset, and we can't play foolish politics with bad math around it. We got to be sober and we got to think about our people. I increasingly speak with Democrats and leaders around the world who the light bulb is turning on and they're getting it. Energy matters. Energy matters. You can't bring politics, innumerate politics, into energy.
Thank you. Tim Gardner at Reuters. Secretary Burgum, you made some news earlier or last year saying that potentially some coal plants could come out of retirement and generation could come from there. Are there talks for that, and what do those look like, and is there any estimates of how many plants could come back?
The answer is yes. As Chris said, we've got energy addition that needs to happen in this country, and we absolutely positively need more baseload. We have some parts of the country that over-rotated to the intermittent and highly subsidized forms of energy, which is causing grid destabilization. So we have to come back with that. I know that there are some participants here in the room who are looking at adding units to their current facilities. I fully expect that we're going to see new coal plants being built in America in the years to come.
Charlie Kreitz with Fox News. You mentioned AI briefly there. How important do you think the reestablishment of this commission is to winning the AI race against China? I know nuclear has been big, but how important do you see coal in this battle?
Coal's huge and critical to AI race. If we followed the UK policy and over the next 5 years shut down all of our coal plants, we would have no chance of leading in AI, just no chance. As they said, we need 50 to 100 additional firm gigawatts, and we were slated to close somewhere between 60 and 80. I gave 100 as the total, but the vast majority of that was coal. If we continued down that pathway, we would not be leading in AI. Just what we've done during the last administration drove this huge increase in electricity prices. That's a political issue. That's an impoverishment of American issues. That pushes more American industry overseas. That sets a thing. If you're going to develop big data centers, you're obviously not going to do it in America. They're going the opposite direction. So I think President Trump and Secretary Burgum and the administration's urgency that we're in an energy emergency, we're not going to gradually pivot the battleship. We're going to stop the nonsense and lean in going forward. We would have massive increase in blackouts already in this administration, and even faster acceleration in electricity prices. So yeah, no way to win the AI arms race without coal.
Okay, thank you guys for taking questions. We will take the press out and let you get on with your meeting.
Thanks. thanks for being here. The really smart folks who are making it happen in the coal world are going to be speaking now. So we're going to take the quality up a notch or two.
Thank you, press. Thank you, White House. And as Blake said at the outset, even though the press has left the room and will continue the meeting is being live streamed. So again, competitors in the room, make sure you're not sharing information that you wouldn't be allowed to share with competitors in a public setting.
Well, thank you, Secretary Burgum and Secretary Wright. I'm David Fatui, the Deputy Administrator of EPA. It's a pleasure to represent Administrator Zeldin here this morning and to share with you EPA's efforts to work to reinvigorate the coal industry, a sector that's so vital to America's economy, our livelihood, and the way that we achieve the goals that the President has set out for each of us. Each of us at this table has committed and delivered in the first year on our promise and the President's promise to support the coal industry and strengthening our energy landscape. I'm thrilled to share with you some of the achievements that we've accomplished in the last year and lay out a preview of what's ahead. This gets to Secretary Burgum's reference earlier of the federal onslaught of regulations that came during the Obama and Biden administrations from EPA and other agencies that we are working to roll back over the course of President Trump's term. We know that protecting human health and the environment go hand in hand with economic growth. We don't have to choose between either of those. We can accomplish both. And to realize those, we can't stand in the way of Americans' access to affordable and reliable energy. So we're implementing a number of our authorities. For example, under the Clean Air Act, we've proposed to eliminate all of the burdensome Biden and Obama era greenhouse gas standards that targeted the coal and gas power generating sector and jeopardized our nation's energy security. Not only were those regulations built on shaky legal foundations, but they raised the cost of living for millions of American families and businesses. We've also proposed to repeal the 2024 amendments to the mercury and air toxic standards under the Clean Air Acts, an action that directly resulted in coal-fired power plant retirements. Each of those power sector actions, when finalized, will save billions of dollars annually. We're holding states accountable to following their Clean Air Act responsibilities. Under the Trump EPA, states cannot use the Clean Air Act's programs as a pretense to unnecessarily shutter coal-fired baseload power plants. Just last week, we issued a full disapproval of Colorado's revised 2022 Regional Haze State Implementation Plan that would have resulted in the premature closure of coal plants that are critical to grid stability and baseload power generation in that state. Under the Clean Water Act, just at the end of last year, we finalized an action to provide immediate relief from some of the most costly wastewater regulations affecting coal-burning power plants issued by the Biden administration in 2024 and extended compliance deadlines for those facilities. Those actions will help mitigate the impacts on the grid from the extraordinary increase in electricity demand that we're seeing across the economy. Last year, we also took public comment and are actively working on changes to specific technology limits from effluent from those coal and gas-fired facilities. And we will follow up this year expeditiously with a rulemaking to provide additional relief. We announced a proposal as well in November under the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act to extend the closure date for certain coal combustion residuals surface impoundments operating under alternative closure provisions. If finalized, that action would defer a deadline into 2031 and would allow a subset of baseload coal-fired producers to operate for an additional number of years. That comment period just closed, and we're looking at the public comments that we received and intend to take final action soon on that proposal. And lastly, we're supporting our state partners under the coal combustion residuals permitting program by delegating that authority to states like Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas, and most recently North Dakota, who've taken over running their own CCR permitting programs. They can work directly with many of you in this room to ensure that efficient permitting is taking place in a cost-effective manner that does not impact your important work. Lastly, we are working hard to revise our Waters of the United States definition under the Clean Water Act. We know that that affects a number of you in this room. We want to ensure that the Clean Water Act is used to protect water quality and not used as an excuse for inefficient and unnecessary permitting requirements. And then lastly, also under the Clean Water Act, just this week, we proposed changes to the Clean Water Act Water Quality Certification Program, otherwise known as the 401 program, to provide, again, additional metrics and qualifications for how states implement their authority under that program. We're not done yet. That's just a sense of what we've accomplished to date and what's on the near-term horizon. We have dozens of other deregulatory actions planned for 2026, and I appreciate being able to join you today and hear from you directly about what is needed to help your industry and help your companies thrive. And I appreciate, again, the Secretary's allowing me to join you today. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're focused on clean air and clean water, not industry assassination. That sounds like a good retargeting for the EPA.
The
clean water and clean air.
The President has been absolutely clear that we will provide the cleanest air, land, and water to all Americans, and we will have the most robust economic growth and energy development that we've ever seen. And we can do both. Administrator Zeldin is clear that we will do both, and that's what the efforts I just described get to.
Thank you, David.
Alrighty. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to echo Secretary Wright and Secretary Burgum and just thank you all so much for being just as resilient as the fuel that you provide and fighting the attacks of the Biden and the Obama administrations. The fuel you provide is absolutely essential. It's an honor to serve under the leadership that you've heard from this morning. Secretary Wright, Secretary Burgum, President Trump, they understand energy. They get it. They understand that it drives everything. National security, economic security, and you built this modern world. The coal that you all produce fueled the Industrial Revolution, and it keeps the lights on today. I had the honor of being a fifth-generation North Dakotan, third-generation energy worker, and I saw firsthand the impact that the coal industry had on our state, and it still does today with the lowest electricity prices in the country. As a farmer, it provides the fuel for our crops. It's the anhydrous ammonia to increase our yields. And we've heard the met coal, how critical that is to providing the steel that built modern America and builds the expansion of the world we know today. And we continue to see investments made in further uses for coal. As you all know, the NCC serves as a federal advisory committee to the Secretary of Energy, charged with providing recommendations on coal policy, technology, and markets. Well, the previous administration attacked your industry and allowed this federal advisory committee to expire. Like your fuel, your industry didn't quit. It's remained a critical part of America's energy system. So today, on behalf of the America First Trump administration, it's my honor to formally welcome back the council. Thank you. The Department of Energy, and specifically our newly named office, Hydrocarbons and Geothermal Energy Office. As of yesterday, we formally announced our new office, the Office of Coal. Got rid of all of the ridiculous names that the prior administration tried to force on our office, and we have an office focused on your industry. Secretary Wright talked about how critical baseload reliable electricity is to the grid, and you referenced the adequacy report that was published last year from the Department of Energy. We would have had 100 times more outages if we would have continued down the path of the Biden administration. It's unacceptable. President Trump knows that energy is going to allow for the reindustrialization in America, provide America Americans jobs and strengthen our country. As of 2025, coal makes up about 16% of our electrical demand in the U.S., a top 3 provider and far and away the largest provider fuel source for global power demand. That's not going anywhere. So to ensure the longevity of our coal fleet, stabilizing the coal industry, not only are we issuing 202Cs to protect this critical infrastructure, we're also investing in it. Secretary Wright had a different analogy, but the best thing to do when the prior administration digs a hole is to stop digging. So that's the first step. We're going to stop digging and we're going to start investing. We have $625 million of funding opportunities actively announced to help support your industry, to invest in your plants, to reopen shuttered power plants so we can put affordable electrons back on the grid. We're also investing in research. I'm excited to announce that the National Energy Technology Laboratory, which has 3 locations, one of which is in Morgantown, West Virginia, is going to be our new center of excellence for coal. This can be the front door for industry to go to a national lab and access all of our national labs because coal matters and there's more we can do with this incredible fuel. February 5th, we're going to have a tour at Morgantown, and we would like to extend an invite to all of you to come see what the lab capabilities are and ensure that we're fully aligned with the problems that you have, and we're applying America's researchers to the problems that matter to you that have commercial scalability. In addition to protecting our baseload power, we also want to support the industry in expanding export opportunities. Coal is the fastest growing energy form for electrical generation and has been for over a century. By facilitating coal export, we can bolster not only the U.S. economy, but to our allies as well. So with that, I would like to formally ask Jim and Jimmy, thank you for your leadership, for the council to conduct 2 studies. First one is Pathways to Protecting America's Coal-Fired Power Generation, and number 2 for expanding U.S. coal exports. So upcoming, we have multiple workshops. I do want to take a second and give a hand to the many individuals who put countless hours into putting this together. It takes a lot to pull this type of group together in the EEOB. So if we can give the team a round of applause for the time and effort they put into organizing. Much like the national lab announcement, the workshops serve as an opportunity for us to hear what your needs are. It does us no good to make up projects if they're not aligned with your mission and what you need us to solve. So those 4 regional workshops will serve as a listening tour so we can work with your teams to make sure we're focusing on the problems that matter most to you. We're grateful for you, for the critical role coal has played in building the America we know, and the important role it's going to continue to play in powering American energy dominance. Thank you, God bless, and God bless the coal industry. Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody, and we'd like to start out with going around the room, and if everybody could succinctly say their name and their company, that would be a great way to start. So I'm Jim Grech, I'm the CEO and President of Peabody Energy.
Buddy Haston, CEO of Arkansas Electric Cooperative.
Jim Pfeiffer, I'm Genmar's General Counsel.
Mike Day, CEO of Eagle Summit Resources.
I'm Michelle Bloodworth. I'm President and CEO of America's Power, and so honored to be here today.
I'm Doug Kimmelman. I'm the Executive Chairman and Founder of Energy Capital Partners.
I'm Todd Brickhouse. I'm the CEO of Basin Electric and proud to be here with at least 3 other North Dakotans.
Bill Furman, CEO of American Electric Power.
Brian Tierney, CEO of First Energy.
Jason Motika, co-founder of Terra Energy Center in Alaska.
Jeremy Fisher, Chief Business Officer at the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Don Gully, President and CEO of Big Rivers Electric Corporation.
Earl Moore, CEO of Powerscape Global, New Coal.
J.C. Butler, President and CEO of North American Coal.
Catherine Gates, President and CEO of SunCoke Energy.
Randy Atkins, Chairman and CEO of Ramaco Resources, and I'm proud to say I was the last chairman of this council. President Biden vaporized 4 years ago.
Randy Sharp, President and CEO, Prairie State Generating Company.
CJ Stewart, CJ Stewart, Director of Energy for the Crow Nation.
Eric Scrimmetta, Chairman, Louisiana Public Service Commission.
Joe Usabelli, President Usabelli Coal in Alaska.
Chuck McFarland, President CEO of Otter Tail Corporation.
Adam Anderson, CEO of Western Fuels Association.
Ed Elkins, Chief Commercial Officer, Norfolk Southern Railway.
Robert Shields, Senior Director of Regulatory and Rates at Arkansas Electric Cooperatives.
Jim Bunn, President of Central Coal.
Tony Campbell, President and Chief Executive Officer Advisor at East Kentucky Power Cooperative.
Rich Nolan, President and CEO, National Mining Association.
Steve Nelson, President and CEO of Mountain State Energy Holdings.
Carson Blastro, CEO of Wolverine Fuels.
Rob Moore, CEO of American Consolidated Natural Resources.
Stacy Chater, CEO of Rainbow Energy Center.
Ern Lund, CEO of Navajo Transitional Energy Company.
Joe Kraft, CEO of Alliance Resource Partners.
Brian Rich, President, Reading Anthracite Company.
Brian Thompson, President of Komatsu's Underground Mining Division.
Corby Robertson, CEO of NRP.
Paul Scheller, CEO, Warrior Met Coal.
Mike Nassy, partner, Jackson Walker. Thanks for getting the band back together.
Ana Amicarella, CEO of Ethos Energy.
Jimmy Brock, Chairman and CEO of Core Natural Resources.
Thank you. Did we miss? Yep. Yeah, Jeff Wood, partner at Baker Botts.
Matt Leopold, partner with Holland and Knight.
Thomas Adams, Executive Director, American Coal Ash Association.
Danny Gray, Executive Vice President of Echo Material Technologies.
Ken Nemeth, Secretary and Executive Director of the Southern States Energy Board. Charlie Gurecki, CEO of the Energy and Environmental Research Center at the University of North Dakota.
Dick Bajura, Director Emeritus of the National Research Center for Coal and Energy at West Virginia University.
Manny Zerang, Vice President of Generation at Big Rivers Electric.
Rob Krieger, Executive Director of the Wyoming Energy Authority.
John Ward, Executive Director of the National Coal Transportation Association.
Sam McCown, President of the Kentucky Coal Association.
Dennis Watson, Vice President of Government Affairs, American Consolidated Natural Resources.
Well, staff could have introduced themselves, but that's okay. That council members. I'm Blake Dealey, the Deputy Executive Director of the National Energy Dominance Council.
Lanny Erdis, Department of the Interior. I'm the Director of the Office of Surface Mining and the Acting Assistant Secretary for Lands and Minerals.
Kurt Kokadrilli, I am the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for HGEO, Hydrocarbons and Geothermal, and Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for Coal. Thank you all for being here.
Well, Secretary Burgum, Secretary Wright, I've been in this industry almost 4 decades now. I'm getting as old as the coal, it seems like. But I can tell you that I've never been in an event like this or the previous events we've had here. And we are so grateful to President Trump for his support, and we're so grateful to the both of you for your support. So on behalf of the industry and everybody here, thank you very much. And to all of the new members of the National Coal Council, welcome. Thank you for coming here today. And we really do appreciate the support that we are going to need as we work on these studies for the administration. And I can say on behalf of Jimmy Brock and myself, we're very, very honored to have this opportunity to participate in the National Coal Council. And I mentioned to Secretary Burgum yesterday, I was trying to think of the last council I tried to get on, and it was my high school student council, and I got soundly defeated in that election. So it's nice to finally be accepted onto something and feel like a winner. So thank you. as Assistant Secretary Housefeld said, we are tasked with advising the administration on two studies, the maintaining and growing the coal fleet and expanding our U.S. coal export options. Now, I do know that there are other topics that are of interest to some of the members here. Rare earth elements was mentioned in critical minerals. And we are going to have a discussion session here in just a moment to talk about those two topics, and time permitting, we can open the floor up to talking about these other topics if so needed. But before we get into that, I'd just like to talk about the process forward, what we're going to do after this meeting. So today we're going to get the topics, have the topics, get your feedback, and then we're going to develop along with the administration and the staff here the initial outlines for the two reports. Next week, you'll be getting a letter from us, and there's going to be 3 asks of you in that letter next week. One of them, the initial outline will then be there, so please review and comment on it. Secondly, in that outline, there's going to be all the topics and subtopics, and we're going to ask for volunteers to lead on doing the report for those topics and subtopics. And listening to all of the titles of all the CEOs in the room, I'm pretty sure none of you are going to be doing that work. So we are going to ask for you to give us the contact in your organization, the working contacts that we'll be working with day to day. And we will get back to them promptly with the reports, because Jimmy and I know that there's a sense of urgency to get this information back to the administration. And so we'll get that out to you next week. We're going to give you a 1-week timeline to respond back with comments and who in your organization that we'll be working with. Okay. And then after that, we'll form the committees. We'll designate the leads of the committees from these working contacts that you give us. We'll establish the timelines going forward. And at some point, we'll establish the next formal meeting of the National Coal Council for later this year. But in between now and then, these committees will be meeting, will be very active with the 2 topics we have and the amount of work that's already been done. I see no reason that we couldn't have those reports done by early to midsummer, back to the administration at the latest. We know the information is just getting organized and unified as the NCC in our response back to the administration. So are there any questions on the process before I move into the discussion of the topics?
Hey, Jim, before we move into the discussion piece of it, I'd like to take just a second here, and on behalf of our miners, thank Secretary Burgum, Secretary Wright, and the Trump administration. What we did, or what all of you did on that National Coal Day when you declared metallurgical coal a critical mineral, and you had all of our miners behind you on that stage, and President Trump was very generous with his time and spent a lot of time and effort with it. Those miners for the last, at least the last 5 years and previous, have been deterred from the media and everyone else that coal's not going to be here. You won't have a job. Why would you go into the coal industry? It was tough on us to recruit young engineers and to keep those guys. That day changed everything. It gave them a sense of purpose. They could feel proud about what they do again. And these coal miners are some of the most prideful people I know. They're proud of what they do. They want to serve the American people. They want to do what's right here at home. So on behalf of all of our coal miners, all the companies here, thank you for what you did, and Mr. Trump as well. Thank you.
So I'm going to start the discussion on the first topic. And I'd just like to say before we get into talking about the power plants, and we've talked about coal being affordable and reliable, I'd also like to add abundant to that description. In the United States, in our coal reserves, we have more energy in our coal reserves than any other nation has in any other single energy resource. It's really astounding when you think about it. And it seems like we just lack common sense to not take advantage of having the most abundant energy resource of any nation on the planet. Right? And one of the ways that we can help use that energy resource is how we are going to maintain our current coal fleet and then look to grow our current coal fleet, which is the first report. And so I'm going to open that up to discussion, and for anybody that may have any comments out there or talk to. Michelle, I think you have him.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Jim, to you, our new chair, also to Jimmy Brock, our vice chair, and certainly to all of you who are members of the National Coal Council. America's Power, for those of you who may not be familiar, we're the only national trade association who is solely focused on coal electricity and its supply chain. We obviously promote policies, sensible policies that will recognize the critical importance use of coal electricity. We want to thank certainly Secretary Wright, President Trump, Secretary Burgum, and everyone else in the administration for reinvigorating the National Coal Council and for your initiatives to maintain grid reliability and support the coal fleet and its supply chain. Despite very much support we appreciate from this administration, as you know, coal still faces many challenges. But we all know how important the coal fleet and coal electricity is because of demand growth and also risk in this country of electricity shortages. In addition, the coal fleet has become a national security asset because of its ability to support the expansion of artificial intelligence. And the way you answered the reporter's question was spot on. The National Coal Council can also bring more focus to these challenges and help promote solutions. We need solutions, and we need to expedite those. One of the challenges, and certainly you guys have also mentioned, is the sheer number of coal retirements that are expected to occur unless major steps are taken very soon to prevent them. We very much appreciate the Department of Energy's efforts to keep coal plants running through emergency orders, through the 202Cs. But we also need longer-term solutions to give this whole coal supply chain certainty related to investing in coal plants and making economic decisions. Right now, almost 1/3 of the coal fleet, 57,000 megawatts, has announced plans to retire by the end of 2029. That's not very far away. There is enough capacity with those coal plants to power almost 60 hyperscale data centers. Moreover, more than half of the coal fleet has announced intentions to retire, your 100 gigawatt number, by the end of 2034. Fortunately, and many of those in this room, which many of those are members of America's Power, utilities have begun reversing some of the retirement decisions, and we are optimistic that there will be more reversals. DOE's funding, as Kyle mentioned, is so critical to help generators upgrade and maintain the coal fleet because it will be operating longer if we're all going to win the AI and the technology race. For example, we estimate that more than $1 billion per year might be needed to fund O&M for the coal fleet so that coal fleet can run and be more economical and efficient and meet surging electricity demand. In addition, and thank you, Deputy Administrator Fatui, new source review is critical. It needs to be reformed by EPA if we're going to eliminate barriers to many in this room who do want to upgrade and modernize their coal plants. Certainly to see the sustained operation of the coal fleet. And we do appreciate all of the good work that EPA is doing, and thank you. We look forward to working with the National Coal Council to take advantage of our nation's big, beautiful, certainly abundant, clean coal fleet and making America great again. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Michelle, for that, and a lot of good points to work into the study for us. And you mentioned a lot about generation, so would any of the, maybe the generating members with the generating utilities, Bill, I see you.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for bringing this group together. Bill Furman with American Electric Power, one of the largest producers of coal-fired generation electricity in the country. As we look at this from an operating perspective, and I look back over my 45 years in this industry, which, by the way, started a couple months from now in a coal-fired power plant in the middle of Nebraska. Very proud to be a part of this commission. But as I look at the challenges of continuing to operate these plants, we've been in a situation where it's been a death by 1,000 cuts. There's been many rule changes to try and make these plants unaffordable and inoperable. And so consistency and continuity of regulation going forward will be incredibly important for us to make the investments that we have to make into these plants. It's all about affordability, reliability, and national security. And the winners of the AI battle are going to be who has the most electrons on the grid. And it's going to be absolutely critical that we keep these plants running. So we're all in on this. Anything we can do to support, obviously, we're here to do that. and appreciate the chance to be a part of this council.
Thank you, Bill, and having your support is going to be key to the success of this, so thank you. And I've seen, Buddy, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Buddy Haston, President and CEO of Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corp., representing 1.2 million Arkansans today. My job is just simple, to provide affordable and reliable electricity. However, national electricity prices have gone up 8% in 25, with more on the horizon. I noted a recent interview, Secretary Wright said that rising electricity prices are what worries him 7 days a week. And it worries me. So electric demand is skyrocketing. It's predicted to go up another 25% by 2030 and as much as 78% by 2050 due to data centers, onshoring manufacturing, electrification of everything. Meanwhile, in the last 15 years, America has shut down 142 gigawatts of coal and 8.8 gigawatts of nuclear, with another 57 gigawatts of coal announced through 29. In the same time frame, America has brought on 94 gigawatts of natural gas power plants and 249 gigawatts of wind and solar. However, intermittent wind and solar aren't capable of the 24/7 power production like coal, which has led to capacity shortages, constrained supply, and increased electricity prices. The challenge is electric load can be built faster than reliable generation, a fact that Google, Meta, Amazon, and many others are learning the hard way. Supply chain constraints for new power plant infrastructure has resulted in excessive lead times, nearly 3 to 4 years for gas turbines, transformers, high voltage circuit breakers, and excessive prices increases, in many cases doubling or tripling costs for this critical infrastructure. As more coal and nuclear plants close, we're becoming overly dependent on a single resource, natural gas. Most shockingly, generation shortages have resulted in rolling blackouts in America, something I never thought I would see in my lifetime. My dad was a simple farmer from Iowa, and I'll reuse a phrase that 2 other North Dakotans have already used. If you find yourself on a hole, stop digging. But maybe in this room, if you are working in coal, maybe the first thing you do is to start digging. So keeping and investing in our existing coal plants is the fastest and most economical way to address this rapid electric need for power for America's future. However, specifically a fresh look at EPA regulations and market distorting subsidies that are forcing coal plants offline is truly needed to ensure that coal remains a part of our national electric supply. So thank you.
Thank you, Buddy. And I think I'm going to have to start writing down all these North Dakota things. There's quite a few. Make a list of them. We have time on this topic for one more comment. If anybody would like to Mr. Rob Moore.
Jim, thank you. Rob Moore with American Consolidated Natural Resources. I applaud the effort to continue to evaluate saving these coal plants and keeping these coal plants online. We also need to be thinking about how we keep our coal mines operational. We have significant challenges at the mine level, and like a rocket ship without fuel, a coal plant without fuel is an empty vessel with no energy. We must do more to protect our mines. We're overregulated. We deal with matters that most other industries never have to deal with. We need to address those things as part of this report.
Thank you, Rob. It's all about that vertical integration, right? It's if whatever's in that stack has to work. So, thank you. So, listen, like I said, we'll take these in.
I just may add to that on this general theme of what I'll call the bucket red tape, Chris and I at NEDC, we don't want to wait till a report in July. If there are things that you individually at an individual mine are running into, I think their thought is, well, we won't bother the government with this. That's exactly the stuff we want to hear. We want to hear specifics. We want to hear, which agencies, which states, which regulators. We want to hear all of that so that we can productively figure out a way to cut red tape. And for many of you that have given us a call, have said, wow, we had no idea that you guys could take care of this in a day or a week or 2 weeks. We're getting it done right now and we like to say the speed of Trump. And the speed of Trump is actually faster than the speed of business. It's definitely faster than regulated utilities. And so we are in and we're grateful for all the regulated utilities that are here. But we have to get our mindset around, as Chris was saying. The thing is, we've got to go fast on this stuff. We are in a race with China. Just having that mind in your head when you leave here today that every 4 days they're opening up a coal plant, and we're trying to figure out in our country, the wealthiest country in the world with the most experience and the most resource, like, can we do one? Who's going to do it? Like, it's a rarity thing. We got to get into of thing where we're just in this business and going. And the supply chain issues which are raised, which you guys will address, we're tackling those right now. NEDC, we've met with everybody who manufactures a turbine and a transformers. All those folks are coming in, and we're sitting down with them and saying, what can you do to produce more? How can we help? Can we use Defense Production Act? Whatever. We are in an arms race. We are going to bring everything we can from the federal government. So if you've got along the way, as you're heading towards that report, if you have the first meeting and go, these are the top 10 things that are bothering us right now, don't wait till July to send it in to NEDC. Get it to, DOE and to NEDC right away so we can start tackling it. And if it's a leasing issue or something like that, we'll get it to the Interior, to BLM or to Lanny and his team. If it has to do with the Office of Coal, we'll deal with it there. If it's keeping a plant open, I mean, this is a whole of government approach. It's a one-stop shop. And so love that gets added, but we want to make sure that we walk away with here the understanding that it's not just what we do, it's how fast we do it. And that's a new mindset in dealing with the government. Speed, and we will react. The people that want to go the fastest are the ones that are getting the most attention. And President Trump likes to say, he wants to go to ribbon cuttings, not groundbreakings. So you figure out how to get your project done, he'll show up. You're like, hey, we're thinking about doing something. We'd like to come to ribbon cutting. Don't even bother asking. He's not coming to that stuff. But he wants to come to projects that are being completed. So that'd be the advice there.
Thank you, Secretary. It was Secretary, and I know most of the people in the room, and I don't think any of them would be bashful to bring things quickly now that door's been opened. So like I said, on that, you'll be given a chance to opine more on this outline and the topics when you get the letter next week. So we're going to shift to the next one. I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy Brock to address the expanding coal export options.
Thanks, Jim. I did something I normally don't do. So I wrote down in the essence of time kind of what I wanted to say and turn it over and give others an opportunity to do the same. The U.S. holds the world's largest proven coal reserves, 270 billion tons that we hold here. Just as importantly, the U.S. contains some of the highest quality metallurgical coal, some of the highest quality BTU coal in both the metallurgical and the thermal arenas around the world. Given this massive high-quality reserve base, the U.S. is capable of meeting its own energy requirements for centuries while simultaneously facilitating U.S. energy dominance overseas. Increasing U.S. coal exports have the potential to do the following: support well-paying jobs and regional economies here in the U.S., contribute to a more positive balance of trade, facilitate more stable global energy markets in a way that enhances overall global economic growth, help ensure that American coal industry remains strong and resilient, and increase America's influence on the world stage. Global coal consumption, as Secretary Wright said earlier, in 2025 is expected to break another record. We had a record in 2023 of somewhere around 8 billion tons. 2024, we were 8.5 billion tons, and we believe we'll see 8.8 billion tons of consumption in 2025. So pretty steady growth there that we have. Supporting that growth, Southeast Asia countries are projected to continue to build out their blast furnace capacity through the end of this decade. And seaborne thermal coal demand has been in an upward trajectory as well. The U.S. is a cornerstone of global seaborne metallurgical supply and also has the potential to increase share markedly in the global seaborne thermal markets. The biggest challenge that U.S. producers face in order to compete in global markets is one of logistics and pure geography. The world's fastest growing and most coal-dependent economies are halfway around the world in Asia. So within the U.S. coal industry is highly efficient and generally low cost at the operational level. The additional cost associated with moving tons into Asia can create a substantial barrier to competing in those important markets. On average, the cost to move coal from the East Coast to the Asian markets is around $25 a ton, depending on where it's going and what port it's going out of. and moving those tons to the same markets from Australia and Indonesia, who are our competitors. So as a result, the U.S. coal industry needs to help of the other players in the supply chain to compete in those markets and can also benefit from strategic government support. For instance, competitive rail rates can be enhanced to competitiveness of the U.S. cost and serve as a counterbalance to those higher ocean freight rates that we sometimes see. The railroads recognize these challenges and have partnered with us on this front, but will continue to work with the rail partners to identify incremental potential savings. In addition, lower state severance tax and other sales-sensitive costs can enhance the competitiveness of the U.S. cost bases overseas. The leadership of the Trump administration and the U.S. Congress in designating metallurgical coal as a critical mineral and making metallurgical coal eligible for a 2.5% production tax credit has also provided tremendous value in helping to make U.S. metallurgical coal more competitive on the world stage. We are eager to explore other sensible, cost-effective support mechanisms that can enhance U.S. coal competitiveness while driving incremental value for U.S. citizens. Another way that the U.S. can enhance the participation in global export markets is via the addition of terminal capacity. But overcoming such, to date, efforts to add such capacity have been met with significant resistance from the West Coast states. But overcoming such resistance could have transformational for the export of U.S. coals off the West Coast. Needless to say, U.S. coals that move off the West Coast are much closer to those Asian markets from an ocean freight perspective and far more competitive relative to Australia and Indonesian suppliers. At present, exports off the U.S. West Coast are restricted to a small amount of capacity in California and those volumes that can move via Vancouver, which is a long-haul road for most of the U.S. Western suppliers. Translates into coal opportunity to move those tons directly from U.S. ports and preserve that value for America. So really, when I look at the export side, and we have a couple people speak about it, but it's really two things that it really boils down to. It's geography and logistics. We can't do much about the geography. We are where we are to ship those. But on the logistics part, we work with the rail partners to get that. And then the other piece of it is expanding port capacity. We export approximately 100 million tons a year, including thermal and metallurgical. I think that number could grow. It also depends upon, obviously, the price of natural gas. It'll depend upon the domestic demand here. But we have opportunities. I really look forward to working with all those who volunteer. Can't thank the administration and the secretaries enough for the support you've already had. It's been tremendous, and it's our time. The time is now. So at this time, Rich, I'd like to turn it over to you to make a few comments.
Great. Thanks, Jimmy. And thank you, secretaries and administrator, for reestablishing the National Coal Council. This has been a long-term priority for the National Mining Association, going back to when Randy was chairing it and Biden blew it up in a day. It was great to see this included in the president's executive order on coal, and we're just ecstatic to be here. Many of our members are in the room today and look forward to partnering with you going forward. So thank you so much. It's an incredibly refreshing era for coal, and it stands in stark contrast to what we've been through with prior administrations over the last decade. On to exports. Global coal use stands at record highs, as Jimmy just stated. U.S. coals, both thermal and metallurgical, are in high demand around the world because of our high quality. The key to getting our domestic coal in the global market at a competitive price, as Jimmy just talked about, we want to highlight today just 3 factors that can help increase domestic coal exports. First, specifically, trade agreements that prioritize U.S. coal exports in the largest markets, including India, which is under discussion as we speak, Japan, South Korea, China, and even Europe. These agreements should eliminate barriers to entry for U.S. coal, such as the Indian export fees or even the Chinese retaliatory tariffs on U.S. coal. Agreements should include long-term offtake agreements with these countries to ensure stability in the export market, and the fire sale priced Russian coals that are currently being dumped on the Asian market should be sanctioned, along with any Russian sanction package that comes forward. The other point that's been raised by Jimmy, flexible, affordable, and reliable rail transportation for the expansion of U.S. coal movements. Meeting domestic energy needs and international demand for coal requires flexibility from our railroad partners and an understanding that coal demand is rebounding, requiring increased rail capacity. As much as we cannot afford to retire power plants, reducing hauling capacity, workforce reductions, line abandonments, or even reduce competition in Class I service can reduce mining companies' ability to meet that export demand. Finally, better shipping access to Asian markets. We need expansion of bulk port capacity, especially as Jimmy outlined on the west coast of the United States. Last year's court victory opening the Oakland bulk oversized terminal to coal shipments is a great start, but additional capacity is needed. How we stand up a Pacific coal terminal with appropriate rail access needs to be pursued. The members of the NMA look forward to working with the council and the secretaries continuing going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Rich. Walt, would you like to add some comments?
Sure, thank you, Jimmy. First, I want to thank Secretary Burgum, Department of Interior, and specifically BLM for the coal lease. Hey, we finalized our coal lease on Monday. We'll be mining that coal within a month. So thank you very much for helping us get that completed and pushing that through. It'll supply an additional 10 years of jobs to several hundred people in Alabama, and they'll be in the top 10% paid in the state. So thank you for all that. I guess I'm just going to reiterate a lot of what Jimmy and Rich said. This is all about transporting our coal to the final markets. We can compete with anybody on an operational standpoint, but we need reliable and affordable rail. What hasn't been mentioned is barge. Okay, our waterways are not in the greatest of shape. You know, we recently, just in Alabama, over the last year, we've had the Warrior River and Tom Bigsby Waterway shut down for several months out of the year because they were in such poor condition that they had to be shut down. So we really need to focus on our infrastructure as a country in order to keep that barge maintenance where it needs to be. Port capacity, affordability, and reliability has already been mentioned. From an ocean-going standpoint, the suspension of USTR 301 was absolutely critical for the industry. And I know that suspension is for a year, but we need to seriously look at that because while we're ramping up our shipbuilding capacity, we've got to deal with what's out there. So that's going to be critical for continued affordability. Another specific is the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. The fact that that has been shut down for 2 years adds 2 weeks of timing and probably $15 to $20 in cost to U.S. coals going into the Asian markets. So it's critical that we find a way to get that resolved and get the Suez Canal back in operation. But all in all, I think, again, U.S. miners can compete with anybody if we're talking about the operations. We just have to get it from those operations to that final customer. Thank you.
Thanks, Walt. Well said. Anyone else like to make comments on exports? Sure.
Yes. I think the key to exports is also providing technologies that can use American coal abroad. The bench right over here is the bench we need. Wyoming Energy Authority, EERC, West Virginia University. Until we reclaim the lead in research and development coal technologies, we won't be able to export the coal we need or use it here in America where we need it the most. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more if someone wants to do it. Ed, you want to say anything? Hate to put you on the spot, but I love it.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you to the Trump administration for everything you're doing to increase American resilience, and thank you to everybody in the room here. I'm lucky to call some of you friends and many of you customers. The rail industry, certainly my railroad, very integrated in the supply chain for export as well as for domestic production. we are very sensitive to what it takes to keep American coal competitive on a global marketplace. And we're every day, we're engaging with Walt, with Jimmy and other people in the room to make sure that we're continuing to do that, to deliver safe transportation, reliable transportation, and a resilient network that's adaptable. So I'm very bullish on the future. Thank you, Jimmy.
You left out a critical part of that, affordable rail rates.
Thanks, Jimmy. And in order to keep us moving along, we're really at the end of this comment period. I know there may have been some other topics that people wanted to bring up, and we'll make sure that we have some time in the next meeting. And of course, in between, I'm accessible, and I'll work with the staff here if there's other things that we need to look at in the future. So right now, this is the time for any public comment period. So I'm going to turn this over to Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's now time for the public comment period. My name is Joe Giovi. I'm one of two deputy designated federal officers for the National Coal Council. Tom Sarkis over here, raise your hand. All right, he's the other one. The National Coal Council is a federal advisory committee, and thus it is governed by the Federal Advisory Committee Act. And that law stipulates that there are certain things that we are required to do, one of which is to have a public comment period at each of these meetings. To satisfy that requirement, we published text in the Federal Register on December 23rd, 2025 that said the following, and I quote, "Public participation. This meeting is accessible to the public via live stream. Members of the public who wish to make oral statements pertaining to the agenda items should contact Mr. Tom Sarkis at the email address or telephone number listed above. Requests for oral statements must be received at least 7 days prior to the meeting," end quote. Tom Sarkis and I can attest that no statements were received 7 days prior to the meeting. We also stated in the Federal Register, and I quote, "Those not able to attend the meeting or having insufficient time to address the council are invited to send written statements to Mr. Tom Sarkis to be read at the meeting. Any member of the public who wishes to file a written statement to the council will be permitted to do so either before or after the meeting," end quote. Mr. Sarkis and I can both attest that no written statements were received either. Therefore, this concludes and satisfies the public comment portion of the meeting, and I turn it back over to Chair Grech. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. So two takeaways here before we adjourn the meeting. And I think they both have to do with speed. And one is you will be getting the letter next week asking for your feedback with the 3 items in there, your comments and volunteers and the contacts. And 2, the Secretary Burgum telling us to not wait till the report is done if we have real issues. And I think the example that Walt gave with the Department of Interior is a great example of that, and how quickly something could be done that, Walt and I, again, we've been here a long time, that would have been trying for years and years, Walt was doing, and made zero progress, and worked with the Department of Interior in a very short period of time. And now, we're keeping people employed and doing great things for our economy. So we're going to move these reports along as fast as we can. But Mr. Secretary, we've heard loud and clear, we won't wait on other issues of importance. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And this meeting, I'm sorry. Yep.
Chris, maybe a final comment?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming. I think we have a photo after this, so that could be the most important thing we do today, or maybe it won't be. But I think just connecting the humans together, connecting with the people at the NEDC, with Secretary Burgum and I and David from EPA, that is the thing. We view our role in government as a service company. We are a service provider. We don't mine coal, we don't burn coal, we don't sell electricity. We're in the business of serving and enabling you and other industries to do what industry does. We are hardcore capitalists, and we want to have thoughtful, clean air, clean water, clean land, and enable American business to thrive. That's how we get to build spectacular things like this, and that's the goal going forward. So as Secretary Burgum said, don't be shy. Please reach out with problems, ideas, thoughts. I'm excited to see the results of these reports coming, bigger picture reports. What can we do? Keep what we've got and grow going forward. But again, I will go to bed tonight with a giant smile on my face to have sat in this room with these awesome, resilient, strong Americans who have powered through your businesses despite the withering challenge. And it's a new age now where we're going to get all of America pro-energy, pro-coal, pro-winning in the next industrial revolution and AI. Thank you for everyone around the table. I am honored and proud to be here. And I'm thrilled with Jim and Jimmy as our, co-chairs of this reconstituted coal council. Let's make it awesome. Let's make it special. Let's make it meaningful.
Thank you, Chris. I want to close with maybe a secondary assignment. You've got the official assignment on. We've got 2 committees, task force. You guys are going to deliver great work. But I think you all know that American greatness has always been built around innovation. I mean, certainly there's perseverance, certainly there's grit, certainly there's risk-taking, all the things that go with entrepreneurs and innovation, or entrepreneurs and risk-takers. But innovation is that ground bed. This industry has been playing defense since the day that Obama was elected, 2008. And I think it creates kind of a pall over the whole thing of, hey, kind of like we got less engineers, you cut R&D, you had to because they were attacking everything, trying to raise the cost of doing business, and then you probably hired more lawyers because you were just defending. So I love the point about the bench and the connection with the research that's been kept alive. Part of the way the research is kept alive in the state of North Dakota is the state of North Dakota was funding it. The companies couldn't fund it, but we also were waiting for this day when we could get back on the offense in terms of innovation. And if President Trump calls it clean, beautiful coal, if you're operating a plant today, it is beautiful for all the reasons Chris said, because it's the foundation, the bedrock of our economy and our human flourishing. But it's also clean, because if your plant's still operating today, you've survived, every attack possible to do things that in many cases other industries aren't asked to do, and in many cases the requirements that were set against you weren't even devices to measure the level of cleanliness you're in. So the U.S. we do it cleaner, better, smarter, safer than anyone else in the world. We should be the world's largest exporter because we do it better here. If people cared about the environment, it should all be happening in the U.S., whether it's oil and gas, coal production, whatever it is. I mean, so again, kudos to all of you. But as when Jimmy was talking about the bringing back to this great group of patriots that work in this industry, to bring back this desire and sense of pride, we also have to instill that in the next generation. Many of you have got workforce development programs because it's the way you've been able to survive in this industry. But we in this country graduated 36,000 lawyers last year. We don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere between 300 and 600 students graduated with metallurgical or mining degrees. So, I mean, we're if it's 300, we're on a 100-to-1 differential relative to where we need to be in terms of getting people back in this industry. Trump has said, drill baby drill, but as we say in Interior, because we got USGS, it's also map baby map. We have all kinds of resources we haven't fully mapped, and it's also mine baby mine. Whether it's critical minerals or met coal or coal, we've got to become excellent as a country in mining, and we've got to do it here domestically. We can't become dependent like some of these countries Chris talked about that just outsourced everything to other countries. That's the road to failure. So I'd say on the off list of this thing, below we have the 2 official things we're doing, but I encouraged Jim yesterday and anybody here, if anybody is thinking about working with rare earth minerals, create an informal group and start creating what will be a future subcommittee of this group. I mean, start getting together and talk about that. And on the innovation front, I mean, we've got people that are doing things now. Kyle talked about anhydrous ammonia, but we got Todd Brickhouse over here. I run into people that say, you can't do CO2, sequestration, whatever. They're like, why sequestration? Why not a value-added input? That guy has shipped close to 50 million tons of CO2 over the last 25 years to Canada for enhanced oil recovery. Okay, for enhanced oil recovery, we need more oil and gas in this country, and we know that CO2 as an injection fluid is really critical for some of the fields that we're in. So we have to keep innovating around all of these new things because to have this industry really flourish again. So if this can be a turning point where we're not just like holding off the inevitable that we're gonna, I mean, you're the numbers that Chris is doing. This is a global industry that keeps on growing. We've got to be leading that, not like woe is us and how are we going to extend before our transition to dying as an industry. We've got to have this industry can flourish. And it can if we keep innovating. And that starts with the R&D component. It starts with the human capital component. I know those aren't the official, made the top 2. I know our rare earth minerals didn't, but some of you, let's figure out a way to get back in the game and all this stuff. You don't have to wait for us or have an official coal council assignment. Organize among yourselves. Start talking about how we can move this stuff forward, and let's get this thing going. And I want to thank, Doug Kimmelman and others that are here, because part of, as Chris talked about, is this industry was strategically starved of capital on purpose. And there's people like Doug and others that want to come, not just look for the government for, the DOE loan program. We gotta get private sector capital flowing back into this thing. And anybody who's planning on building a new plant ought to be in a subcommittee. Y'all got to be talking to each other. How do we build plants? Where's our supply chain issues? And how do we build better plants faster? And what's the innovation we can put in the next gen of beautiful clean coal? So with that, again, I want to thank Jimmy, thanks for your leadership. Thanks for all of you serving. Thanks, Chris, for leading this and everything that the DOE is doing to get this going. And then the quick answer that Chris gave over there before is on these shutdowns from the president. If Chris and I went to the president and said, "Oh, we're shutting down a plant," he's like, "Why?" I mean, the goal is 100% stay open, no more retirements, no more shutting down. So that's the standard that we're operating against. And so if you're even thinking that you might have to shut one down, you should talk to us sooner than later so you don't get a call from somebody else, okay, from the Oval Office. Say, what are you doing? So work with us and figure out how we can keep all of this going. And I do know we do. I also want to give a shout out from Interior. We got 2 tribal groups that are here today. We've got Crow, we got Navajo. You guys play an important part of this industry. DOE loves working with you. Thank you for also being great patriots and helping move energy forward. We appreciate that. And again, thanks to everybody at Energy, DOE, NEDC, and the council for having this great kickoff meeting. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And again, there is going to be some photographs here. I'm not quite sure who's in them, but I'm sure somebody has that organized. So thank you for being here, and the meeting is officially adjourned.